I heard the calculator hit the floor before I heard my sister say my name. That sharp plastic clatter echoed through my mother's living room in San Diego like a warning bell. I looked up from the receipts spread across the dining table, and Olivia stood in the doorway with a look I had never seen on her face, tight, cold, rehearsed. "Sophia," she said, "we need to talk about your accusations." The word accusations hung in the air like smoke. Mom froze on the couch, her knitting needles paused mid-stitch as if they were waiting for a verdict. The late afternoon sunlight coming through the blinds cut shadows across the room, making Olivia look almost like a stranger. I knew, right then, that something was very wrong. But I didn't know that my sister had already hired private investigators. I didn't know they'd been following me. And I definitely didn't know they were about to uncover something she never intended anyone to see. And the strangest part? I wasn't the one being investigated. Let me back up. I'm Sophia. I'm 32, I live in a cozy apartment in Hillcrest, and I work as a community outreach coordinator for a non-profit near Balboa Park. My days are usually full of emails, meetings, and the smell of strong office coffee that always tastes like burnt hope. I'm not dramatic by nature. I don't go looking for conflict. And for most of my life, I avoided anything that looked like drama inside our family. Especially anything involving money. In our house, money wasn't talked about, it was whispered about. Quietly. Carefully. As if acknowledging it too loudly might cause it to disappear. When our dad died unexpectedly while Olivia and I were in high school, Mom suddenly had to handle everything alone. Bills, insurance, mortgage, all of it. Olivia, being older by 3 years, took on the role of the responsible one. She organized files, balanced checkbooks, and kept track of every due date. People praised her, told her she was dependable, mature, impressive. And she was. I admired her for it. But admiration turns dangerous when it turns into unquestioned trust. So when small inconsistencies started appearing in Mom's accounts this year, late notices, missing deposits, odd credit card charges, Mom brushed them off. Probably clerical errors, she said, waving her hand like shooing away a fly. But I couldn't brush it off. Not when the numbers didn't add up. Not when Mom's retirement savings were involved. Not when the discrepancies began forming a pattern. So I asked questions. Polite questions, at first. That's what started the war. And if you're still with me, if you've ever felt like the only sane person in a room where everyone else pretends not to see the cracks, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. It helps more than you know. Growing up in San Diego, Olivia was the sun in every room. She was the kid who organized beach cleanups at Mission Bay, just because it felt right. She was the student council president. The one who color-coded her planner like it was a piece of art. Teachers loved her. Neighbors trusted her. Our mother depended on her. And I depended on her too, in 1,000 quiet ways I never said out loud. Olivia used to braid my hair before school, humming songs that always sounded slightly off-key. She'd help me with math homework. She would leave post-it notes on my backpack, little reminders like "you got this" or "drink water today." She made me feel like someone had my back. But there's a strange thing that happens when everyone treats a person like a hero for long enough. Eventually, they start to believe they're untouchable. Olivia wasn't immune to that. Over the years, she started making choices, for the good of the family, without asking anyone's input. She took over Mom's finances because it was easier. She kept the passwords. She handled every bill. She said things like, "Just trust me, Sophia," or "You don't understand how complicated it is." I wanted to. I really did. But when those financial inconsistencies began appearing, Olivia didn't explain. She deflected. Dismissed. And eventually, she weaponized her role as the responsible one against me. I didn't know I was standing on a trapdoor she had set herself. The moment I stepped through it began the day she confronted me with the proof that I was lying. It happened on a Sunday, which somehow made everything worse. Sundays should be boring: grocery shopping, meal prepping, maybe a walk near La Jolla Cove if the weather is good. But this Sunday, I walked into Mom's house and found Olivia already there, standing at the kitchen island with a stack of printed emails and bank statements in front of her. She looked like someone preparing a case for court. Mom hovered nearby, twisting her wedding ring around her finger, a habit she only did when she was anxious. Olivia cleared her throat. "Sophia, we need to talk." Her voice sounded formal. Cold. Practiced. She laid out the papers like a magician revealing a trick. "These are the accounts you said had inconsistencies." I nodded. "These," she said, "prove you're mistaken." I stepped forward. The papers looked altered. Some were duplicates. Some were formatted differently from the ones I'd seen on Mom's official statements. And a few wouldn't load when I scanned the QR codes. "Where did these come from?" I asked. "From the investigators I hired." I blinked. "Investigators?" She lifted her chin. "Private investigators." I needed to clear my name. My stomach dropped. I didn't even know how to react. "You hired someone to follow me?" "No," she said sharply. "To follow the money. And guess what? They didn't find evidence of the things you claimed." She said it so triumphantly that, for a moment, I questioned my own sanity. Mom looked at me like she didn't know who to trust. I felt the world tilting out from under my feet. "They said your suspicions were unfounded," Olivia continued. "So can we stop this now? Can you stop accusing me?" But something didn't feel right. The documents were too curated. Too convenient. Too sanitized. So while the discussion continued, while Mom sighed and rubbed her temples, while Olivia basked in what she thought was vindication, I noticed something. A single page at the bottom of her stack, almost entirely hidden. A page that did not match the rest. And that was where everything began to unravel. That hidden page wasn't about me. It was about her. After Olivia had stormed out of the room, no doubt pleased with herself, I lingered by the table. Mom went upstairs to lie down, overwhelmed by all the talking and the tension. That left the papers sitting there, exposed. And that one page. It was calling to me. I slid it free from the stack. It was a transaction history printout, but unlike the others, it still had the investigative firm's watermark on it, Solano and Pierce Financial Forensics, and a note scribbled on the corner. "Flagged for further review." My heartbeat kicked into my throat. The column of transactions was long. Suspicious. And familiar. Transfers from Mom's savings account, not the main checking account Olivia usually monitored, had been quietly funneled into a secondary account under the name O. Mason. Olivia's last name is Mason. And these transfers dated back almost 14 months. I felt cold all over. This wasn't a simple oversight. This wasn't bookkeeping. This was intentional. A small noise behind me made me jump. Mom had come halfway down the stairs, watching me with tired eyes. "What are you doing?" she asked softly. I held up the paper. "Mom, did you know about this account?" She squinted. "Savings? I haven't used that one in years." My mouth went dry. Olivia had access. Olivia had control. Olivia had motive. I said, Mom. I think Olivia's been moving your money. Mom swayed a little, gripping the railing. No. Olivia would never. But grief makes people blind. And trust makes them easy to fool. Something inside me hardened, slowly, like setting cement. If Olivia could manipulate Mom and hire investigators just to prove me wrong, then she was capable of far more than I had imagined. And I was about to see just how far she had gone. The real breaking point didn't come during a confrontation. It came during dinner. Mom invited Olivia and me to a restaurant in Little Italy, a cozy place with warm lighting and checkered tablecloths, the kind where everyone speaks softly and pasta smells like a hug. I thought we were there to talk things through. But Olivia had a different plan. Halfway through the meal, she leaned across the table, lowered her voice, and whispered to me. Stop digging. You're only embarrassing yourself now. It was quiet. Cutting. Designed to wound where no one else could hear. And it worked. My cheeks burned. I felt small. Foolish. Like a child who had broken something valuable. Mom looked between us, confused. What's happening? Olivia smiled sweetly, the kind of smile that hides knives. Nothing, Mom. Sophia just gets carried away sometimes. The humiliation stabbed deeper than any argument. It was strategic. Calculated. A message. I control the story. I control Mom. I control the truth. But she had no idea I had already seen her flagged a page. And that I had a plan forming. A quiet plan. A lawful plan. A plan built on the very evidence her investigators had collected. I wasn't going to confront her. I was going to expose her using her own investigation. I left that dinner with a calmness I didn't feel. Inside, something clicked into place. I realized I had been pleading, begging, even, for Olivia to tell the truth. To explain. To confess. To stop lying long enough to hear herself. But she never would. And that humiliation in the restaurant. That was my moment. My turning point. The line I repeated to myself in the Uber ride home was simple. I'm done asking. It's time to act. And if you've ever reached that moment, where you know you need to choose yourself over someone else's lies, tell me in the comments. I promise, I will read every one. This is CTA number 2 placement territory, but the actual CTA number 2 comes in part 2, at midpoint. When I got home, I opened my laptop, created a new folder called For Mom, Truth. Inside it, I began organizing every piece of evidence, every receipt, every printed note. Then, for the first time, I called Solano and Pierce myself. A woman answered with a warm but guarded tone. Solano and Pierce. How may I help you? I said, my name is Sophia Mason. And I think you investigated the wrong sibling. Her silence told me everything. She knew. They found something. Something Olivia never thought would see the light. Ms. Mason, she said slowly, you should come in. I inhaled. When? How soon can you get here? Solano and Pierce's office sat in a polished building off Arrow Drive, with glass walls and air conditioning cold enough to make your skin feel too tight. I arrived early, folder in hand, but my palms were already sweating. A receptionist with neat bangs led me to a small conference room. A pitcher of water sat on the table, untouched. When the investigator walked in, a woman named Denise, I recognized her from the header signature on the documents Olivia had flashed. She shook my hand firmly. Sophia. Thank you for coming. Saturday, I need to know what you really found. Denise nodded, closing the door behind her. Before we begin, I want you to know something. Her voice lowered. You were never the target of our investigation. The air went still. I wasn't? I whispered. No, she said. Your sister hired us to trace financial movement she claimed you were responsible for. But once we began following the accounts, your name stopped appearing. She reached into a folder and slid several papers across the table. Olivia's name didn't. My throat tightened. She flipped through pages, transaction summaries, signature verifications, account link analyses. None of them pointed to me. But almost all of them pointed to Olivia. She created a secondary account under an alias she thought sounded unrelated, Denise said. A simple check of the tax ID number exposed her immediately. I stared, heart pounding. Why didn't you tell my mom? Or me? Denise exhaled slowly. Your sister insisted the final report go directly to her. She said it was a sensitivities issue. But legally, since she was the paying client, we couldn't challenge that. Even when she was hiding what you found? Denise hesitated. We don't decide what a client shares. But, let's just say she extracted only the pages that served her narrative. The ones she brought to your mother were carefully selected. Carefully selected. Meaning carefully manipulated. Meaning deliberately misleading. I placed a hand on my chest to steady my heartbeat. So the flagged page I found was part of the real report, she said. And there's more you haven't seen. She pushed a sealed envelope toward me. Everything we found. And, she paused, a recording of our final consultation with your sister. A recording. My breath caught. She knew we had identified her as the source of the transfers, Denise continued. We told her directly. She begged us to hide it. But we don't falsify findings. The room felt suddenly too small. The walls too close. Denise leaned in, voice soft. I don't know what you're planning to do with this. But I'll tell you this much, you're not crazy, Sophia. You've been gaslit. Gaslit. That word hit deeper than I expected. The truth was not just in numbers. It was in how my sister had made me feel, unhinged, dramatic, suspicious, untrustworthy, while she was the one bordering on fraud. I left the office holding the envelope like it was a live wire. And for the first time in months, I wasn't afraid anymore. I was about to use her own investigation to expose her, in the one place she'd never expect. I didn't want revenge that burned the whole house down. I wanted truth. Clear, undeniable, documented truth. So I built a plan that was methodical, calm, and, most importantly, irrefutable. Step 1. I organized the full Solano and Pierce report into a clean, chronological binder. Every transaction Olivia had moved. Every account she used. Every false statement she fed Mom. Even screenshots of conversations she edited. Step 2. I prepared a separate packet just for Mom, short, simple, digestible. Bulletproof. Step 3. I called our mother's financial advisor, a steady, trustworthy man named Douglas who lived near Pacific Beach. I asked for a meeting and requested he invite Olivia too, under the guise of discussing Mom's retirement transition. Step 4. I didn't tell Olivia I was coming. Step 5. I brought the recordings. When I played the audio with Olivia's voice saying, "Can't you just leave out the parts that mention me?" And, "My sister doesn't need to know about the transfers." I wanted it to be in front of the one person whose trust she had manipulated most, our mother. And in front of a professional who could protect Mom from further financial harm. This plan wasn't emotional. It was administrative. Measured. Unavoidable. Even Olivia couldn't talk her way out of her own recorded words. The only thing left was to walk into that meeting and watch everything unfold. The advisor's office overlooked Mission Bay, sunlight glittering off the water like broken glass. Mom sat near the window, her hands folded neatly on her lap. She looked tired. Older than she was. Olivia arrived 5 minutes late, heels clicking, hair perfect, confidence radiating off her like a shield. "Sorry for the rush," she said. "Let's make this quick." She glanced around, eyes narrowing when she saw me. "Why is she here?" Douglas, the advisor, smiled politely. "Because this concerns both of you." Olivia scoffed. "This is unnecessary drama." I opened my folder silently. "I'd like to begin," I said, with a question. "Olivia, do you want to explain why you hired investigators to follow the money Mom was losing?" Olivia stiffened. "I hired them to clear my name." "They did." "No," I said calmly. "They didn't." I slid the binder across the table. "These are the pages you took out." Mom looked confused, reaching forward. "Taken out, of what?" I clicked my pen, pressing play on a small recorder. Olivia's voice filled the room. "Can't you just hide those pages?" "I don't need my mom or sister seeing that." Mom gasped. Olivia's face drained of color. That was taken out of context." I clicked again. "Just leave out anything that makes me look guilty. I'll handle my sister." Mom covered her mouth with her hands. Douglas leaned forward. "Olivia, did you alter the investigator's report before giving it to your mother?" Olivia shook her head frantically. No, I wasn't hiding anything. I just didn't want to overwhelm her." I spread the rest of the documents out like a fan of cards. "Then why did you move $18,400 from Mom's retirement fund into your private account?" I asked softly. The room fell silent. Mom whispered, voice trembling, "Olivia, is this true?" Olivia's lip quivered. She tried to form words, but nothing came out. Douglas interjected gently but firmly, "This is serious. These transfers are unauthorized. And the signature on the withdrawal slip doesn't match your handwriting, Mrs. Mason." Mom flinched. Forged signatures. Hidden transfers. Altered reports. I watched the truth land on her like a weight she couldn't lift. Olivia finally snapped, voice breaking, "Okay, fine. I took the money. But I was going to put it back." Mom whispered, "You lied to me, and you tried to make your sister look unstable." And that was the moment Olivia broke. Not in a dramatic scream. Not in a rage. She simply lowered her head into her hands, shoulders shaking, makeup smudging, and whispered, "I didn't know what else to do." There it was. The truth she'd been burying for 14 months. The fallout wasn't explosive. It was quiet. Somber. Like the dull ache after a storm. Douglas helped Mom freeze the accounts, revoke Olivia's access, and file protective documentation. Not a criminal case, and Mom didn't want that, but enough to make sure Olivia couldn't touch her finances again. Mom cried that evening, long, quiet tears over a cup of chamomile tea, saying, "I didn't want to believe it. I thought she was helping me." I sat with her until midnight, listening more than talking. Olivia moved out of Mom's house temporarily, claiming she needed space. But really, she needed distance from the truth she'd been caught in. For weeks, she didn't speak to me. Then one afternoon, she texted. "You destroyed me." I typed back. "No. I revealed you. You destroyed your own story." She didn't reply. But slowly, time began doing what time does best, cooling fire into embers. She found a financial counselor. She confessed to her business partner. She began paying mom back in installments. It wasn't redemption. But it was responsibility. 3 months later, Olivia asked to meet. We sat on a bench overlooking sunset cliffs as the sky turned orange-pink, waves crashing against rocks below us. She looked smaller. Softer. Tired in a human way instead of a defensive way. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I let everything get out of control. I thought, if I could just fix it without telling anyone, it wouldn't hurt mom. But it did," I said gently. "I know." We watched the waves for a long moment. "I shouldn't have hired investigators to target you," she added. "I wanted proof that you were wrong because it was easier than admitting I was." That honesty, fragile as it was, mattered. "I forgive you," I said. "But things won't go back to what they were." She nodded. "They shouldn't." And for the first time, I believed we might rebuild something healthier than the broken trust we'd lived on. If you've listened this far, thank you. Really. Here's what I learned. Truth doesn't always show up loud. Sometimes it comes in spreadsheets, quiet questions, or one page someone tried to hide. Trust is precious. But blind trust is dangerous. And love, real love, doesn't mean covering for someone's lies. It means helping them face them. I learned that family can hurt us in ways that strangers never could. But family can also heal when accountability takes the place of pretending. Olivia and I aren't perfect. We aren't all healed. But we're honest now. And honesty is the only foundation that doesn't eventually crack. If any part of this story hit home for you, tell me in the comments which moment felt familiar, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories where quiet truth finally wins.